Hi, I'm Ryan Leach with Master the Score, and this is a lesson from my new course with Gavin Leeper, The Legend of Otoe, Composing Music for Anime and JRPGs, Levels 2 and 3. If you want more content on getting better at making music, make sure you like the video and subscribe to Master the Score. Enjoy. Now I'm going to show you what we've come up with for our Set Out for Adventure piece, which we're calling Otoe's Journey. But of course, you can call yours whatever you like. So here we're demonstrating various principles that we've talked about so far, including borrowed chords and also some of the old ideas from level 1 about melody writings and theme and shaping our piece and accompaniment patterns and all these different things. So first we'll listen through the piece and then I will talk through some of our decisions in how we came up with it. Enjoy. Okay, so the first thing I want to point out is you may have noticed there are two pianos, and that's because this is a piano sketch, not a piano piece. This is not meant to just be given to a solo pianist to go play. This is us actually sketching a composition that we know is actually going to have more instruments later. However, by avoiding using those instruments, we can be a lot more careful with some of our choices for accompaniment, melody, basically everything, rhythm, chords, everything. We can focus on the music and the notes, not get so worked up on, oh, is this going to work in the bassoon? Oh, can the flute do this thing? I don't really care about that right now. I'm not orchestrating, we'll say. I'm not orchestrating, I'm not focused specifically on some of the details that I shouldn't be focused on yet. Really, I just want to be thinking about the notes. So that's why I'm doing a piano sketch first before we orchestrate it. But it's okay to use as many pianos as I need. I could use a third if I needed some part that didn't fit on any other line. That's okay. In this case, you can see really we only needed 3 lines for the whole piece, but it was easier to just set that up as 2 pianos. So here we are. A few other things to bring up that may seem a little more obvious, but we'll just cover them for sure. So our intention here is that Otoe is setting off on her adventure. She's excited, it's energetic, so it's still positive. So it's still in a major key, in this case, A major, but she is embarking on a journey and there's some excitement involved. It's an adventure. So it is a faster BPM, 132 to keep us going and to keep the energy really moving. Also notice that accompaniment pattern immediately has an active moving rhythm. We're getting this kind of syncopation instead of just 1, 2, 3, 4. It's very bouncy. Immediately things are bouncing and moving and kind of alive feeling, energetic and moving. Also, notice that very first opening idea in the melody, we're covering a perfect 4th and an octave, and arguably a perfect 5th if you want to, depending on how you want to look at it. So it's very wide, big intervals, because again, that's like a call to adventure. The old horns could really only play their harmonics and you would hear a lot of very open spaced intervals like fifths and octaves, and that still has that very open, adventurous bold sound. So that was why the decision there was to start right away on that very big open, look, we're off into the landscape, very big open feel. That was very intentional. But immediately on that second chord, we go to D minor 9, if we want to be specific. And the idea there is that's a borrowed chord, right? That's 4 minor, taken from the minor mode. And so we're immediately saying, hey, things are colorful, things are maybe a little mysterious, maybe a little magical. Not everything is necessarily what we're expecting safe and at home in our village. Immediately, that second chord is saying like, ooh, there's a little magic going on here. Then we go from there into a flat 7, borrowed from minor mode as well, flat 7 to 1. That's a substitute. So we are arguably going 1, 4, 5, 1. Very boring. But we've substituted that 4 for 4 minor, and we substituted that 5 for flat 7. The D minor gave us that kind of mystery and magic. The G gave us this boldness and confidence. Then we also borrow here a flat 2 major 7 from the Phrygian mode. We also have a flat 6 flat 7 1, which remember we called that the seal progression in level 1. In all these places we're going to kind of unexpected harmonies, but they're generally, other than that D minor, they're generally very positive and warm and uplifting. So let's listen to just that opening part again. I want to also point out actually that B flat major 7, the most foreign chord in everything we've used so far, this flat 2 major 7, is on the peak and climax of the theme. So we've hit this both melodic high point, melodic peak, and a harmonic peak coming together in the same moment. And so that B flat major 7 really makes that moment extra special. And it also is kind of why it makes sense to put that there. It's not just put in any random spot. It's like, bam, right there on the climax. That's going to make that spicy. Then for the B section, we wanted to move away to a different kind of tonal center. We didn't want to just be like, okay, let's do more stuff in A major. So what we did was actually went to that flat 2 again in the Phrygian mode. We're now in A Phrygian. But part of why it made sense to go there, it was like, oh, this is fresh and new, but it wasn't actually completely foreign. We actually foreshadowed it with that climax chord. So when we move from the end of the A section into that B flat, it's fresh and new, but also familiar at the same time. It's still logical, we could say. It still makes some sense. So the B flat major 7 and the A minor 7 are both the A Phrygian mode. Then we come to B minor 7 flat 5 to E7. Both of those are coming from A minor. So this is the 2 minor 7 flat 5. It's basically a 2-5 progression in A minor. So all we really have here is going 2 to 1 to 5. That's all this B section really is, but we've spiced it up. Or we could even say it was 4, 1, 2, 5. Pretty boring, not that exciting. So 4, 1, and then 2, 5. A completely, we'll say boring, straight ahead, it just works. If you're like, oh, what should I do for my B section? 4, 1, 2, 5. Might sound too boring, but that's exactly the structure this is. That's all the structure is here. It's just 4, 1, 2, 5. And then to make it actually kind of fun and interesting, we've replaced that subdominant chord with a different subdominant, the flat 2. We've replaced our 1 chord with a different one, the A minor. Also notice the 11 and 9 extensions. We've replaced our 2 with a different 2. Instead of B minor, it's B minor 7 flat 5. And then our E7 is just boring old E7 because it still needs to do its job as a dominant. So again, we had the boring 4, 1, 2, 5. and now we're switching that to flat 2, 1 minor, 2 minor 7 flat 5, 5. Still using that same structure, it just works. Okay, also notice that the B theme is a lot less lyrical and adventurous. There's little echoes, it's a bit tighter, it just does not have the same breadth and width of lyricism in it than the A theme, because the A theme is still supposed to be kind of the main event, the main show. All right, let's take a listen to, I'll come out of the A and listen through the B. Also, some things I think are worth pointing out. Notice the very big shift in dynamics. We started at forte, we were loud, we came down to mezzo piano, piano and the accompaniment, we are quiet. Such a simple, obvious thing, but sometimes those things get overlooked. So first part loud, second part quiet. Wow, they're contrasting. There's some adventure, there's things happening in this piece. And then as it goes along, it gradually builds up. So in that C section, we're gonna hit real hard. But not out of nowhere, we are crescendoing to get there. Also, notice the change in texture. So we went from this very rhythmic to arpeggios. Complete change, and the bass line is very moving now. So, actually like this. So we have a whole new shift in just what's going on in the accompaniment as well. Again, it sounds obvious, but it's a pretty easy way to be like, oh wow, the B section, it's different, it's new. Remember, all the things that were different and new, where we started off on that flat 2, major 7, we changed the dynamics, and we changed the accompaniment pattern. Okay, then it gets interesting when we burst into this C. Sorry, we're missing our chord symbols, but this is just F, G, F, G, kind of over and over. So the first thing I want to point out is this here, the C augmented over G flat. So you may remember from an earlier lecture that was the Blackadder chord, which is a really crunchy sound. I wouldn't normally find a lot of good places to put that, but actually for the C, where we wanted just a really strong contrast, we've been in the A, we've gotten a little further away with B, now we want to be just like real in the thick of the adventure in C. That was actually a good place to put that like really wild sounding chord. Let's hear that again. It really rubs you when it first comes in. And then everything from after that is pretty straightforward. We go back to the A minor mode, but then it's just flat 6, 7, flat 6, flat 7, flat 6, flat 7, preparing us for the A. Now the fact that I'm repeating those chords over and over is actually important. That lack of progress and that lack of motion is actually building a lot of tension, and it's part of what's making that return to A more satisfying. We're like, come on already, like let's get there. Finally. So then when we finally get back to A, it's like, we've broken that tension. It's kind of ironic that tension is actually built by not doing stuff, by just keeping static and holding. That actually creates more tension. The other two things I think are worth pointing out, kind of two versions of the same thing, are these rhythmic moments that really break up the pulse and really draw our attention to kind of the whole ensemble. So there's here where there's the melody alternating very strongly on quarter notes with the accompaniment. And then there's this triplet here where the entire ensemble is going to come together. So we're breaking out of this kind of just like grooving along, everybody's doing their own thing. There are certain special moments where everybody comes together that really draws our ear, and it really makes these moments special. So we've kind of made it a climax in the C section here. We've also drawn a lot of attention to the fact that the A section is about to come back. So we want the return to A to be special. The A is our hero, it's our main theme. So we're really going all out to say, hey, everybody, listen up. Here comes the A. We're not shy about it here at all. So let's hear, once again, the C section. And then we're off back into A. So the A section, actually, we went for 2 rounds of the A section. Our form here is a little unusual, but our form is A, B, C, A, A, which in the round of it is still kind of an ABA form. It's still kind of an A theme, some contrasting stuff in the middle, and then returning home. But we did spend more time on the A to really stretch that out in the end part here and kind of balance out some of the quirkiness in the first part. So let's take a listen to both A sections, and you'll notice that they are slightly different, primarily in their chord choices. What you may have noticed is the first 4 bars of the A theme are exactly the same as they were in the first part, except this time we changed that D back to the correct subdominant chord, the correct D major. I think the thinking here was that we'd just been in some really dark places and we were ready to kind of lift the mood and like, let's let things be positive. Maybe in the beginning, Otoe is not so sure as she goes out, but now she's like, yeah, I'm ready for this. I can handle this. Whatever just happened in the C section, she made it through. She's feeling more confident, right? So we did change that. So the first phrase is the same, but then we actually changed what we did for the second phrase. So I just want to remind you, here's how the A theme went in that second phrase. Now let's look at how we handled it in the second A section. So there were actually 3 significant changes. One was that we, as soon as finished that first phrase, signaled, hey, chord change, we're actually going to do something a little different this time. Like as soon as we shift to that C sharp minor over G sharp, even if you don't exactly remember the first time, I think it does kind of signal to you, hey, this time's a little different. Something's not quite the same. Then we go into this descending bass line with a new melodic pattern. It actually reaches a higher point than we ever did before. I think the highest note before was the G, and now we're climaxing on the A. But it doesn't draw a lot of attention to itself. It's a bit lighter for some reason. It just feels a bit lighter and not quite as intense. Then we come through and start again with that same first 4 bars, that basic idea of saying like, hey, here's the A theme again. But instead of giving it to you completely, we twist it on that last chord, giving you a substitute. Instead of giving you the A major chord, like we did the very first time, we give you the F sharp minor 7. So it's just the 6th chord. And then we actually use that 6th chord as the 2 of a 2-5 of 5, which then goes off in its own whole different thing, which becomes a 2-5 of 4, and that goes to flat 2. It gets kind of complicated. But basically, we've used that chord as a way, again, to signal this time's different. And especially it's the third time, this time's the most different, where we even landed on a different chord. First time it was different, we landed on the correct chord and then started to lead you somewhere else. This third time, we didn't even land in the right chord. We were like, nope, this one is totally different. And it's also an active difference. It's a 2/5 progression. So it's like, we are actually gonna go somewhere and do something. Then let's take a look. We actually have a whole chain circle of fifth progressions. So we can work backwards a little bit. Where we are ending up is the A. Now, I'll come back and talk about this E flat in a second. We're on the A. That's where we want to end up. That's home. So we're going to use that flat 6, flat 7, 1, the Mario cadence, which we've already established earlier in the piece. It's a sound we're expecting. We kind of know what that's going to do. We can actually go backwards from there and do a 4/5 in F. So we want to get to the F, go 4/5, 1 to that. Perfectly logical. It makes perfect sense. So you're like, what the heck? We're in A major. How do we get this? Where is that coming from? It's just thinking about the relationship of where we're going. And whenever you kind of land in the right spot, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense, I guess, right? 4/5, 1. We're just going backwards. So we land on this 1, which becomes the flat 6, right? So how did we get here going backwards? This one's a little more complicated, but remember that we've been doing a lot of subdominant substitution. So in our key of A major, this little chord progression right here wants to go to D. That's the 2/5 progression in D, or the 5 of 4, right? We're in A major, 4 chord is D, that's the 5 of 4. And basically, it's totally expected that we're going to a subdominant feel. Now, here we go again. We've already established that we love replacing our 4 chord with flat 2. We've already done it a whole bunch earlier in the piece. It's part of the palette of this piece. So we're going from the 4 chord to the flat 2, and that flat 2 is then what's becoming the 4/5 to the flat 6. It becomes this whole chain of complexity. But if you break it down, just kind of step by step, it's not so overwhelming. It's extremely, as it flows by, it can seem very overwhelming. I realize that. And it can seem very colorful, and it can just be like, rah, what's going on here? But if you just slow down, take your time, go through this piece, just kind of 1 chord at a time, you will find the logic in each step. And the logic is primarily 2/5-1 progressions and 4/5-1 progressions. It's really not that crazy if you just kind of follow that thought process. Okay, so then the last thing to point out is here we are expecting the A. We're expecting our piece to go. So here, what I love to say is give people what they expect, but not how they're expecting it, is a way to make things just extra special. So what we are expecting is the melody to land on A, and how we are expecting it is to be harmonized with an A major chord. So instead, I'm going to give you what you want. I'm going to give you what you expect, that melody note A, but I'm going to do a tritone substitution. That A is actually going to be the sharp 4 of an E flat major chord. So we'll go. And you're like, it's just like, it's like a sneaky move. I gave you what you wanted. What are you complaining about? But you really didn't want it to have an E flat. That was totally unexpected. And then we're like, okay, fine, you can have the A major. So it's a bit of a twist. It's just a way to make the ending special, because the ending is a significant part of the story, right? So we want to give it just that little bit of extra pizzazz. And so that tritone substitution with the melody note being where you expect it is a way to do that. So let's hear just the last 2 A sections. Actually, I'll play the whole piece now. So let's listen to the whole piece one more time. Again, if you want to come back, kind of slowly think about each chord progression, I recommend you do that if certain things aren't making sense. Of course, ask on the Discord as well if certain chord choices don't make sense. I will say that occasionally a chord choice is just because it made a cool bass line or something. But for the most part, the chord choices are pretty logical. 2/5s, borrowed chords, 4/5-1 progressions, things like that. Okay, here is our Otoe's Journey piano sketch. Enjoy.